Horizon Hobby has a knack for making a lot of models, and occasionally discontinuing them, but the E-flite Viper 90mm has been a mainstay in the product line for the past 2 years, and we should know we were one of the first batches of pre-orders for it. There were a few issues with the Inrunner motors in the first batch, but ours thankfully never had any issues with burning up. We were just stupid and flew it into a tree instead. That motor went on to live a long and healthy life inside of a Freewing F-22 before it plowed into the ground at Wings Over Springs 2022. Because we were stupid yet again. Risk is part of the game when you're flying with Two Brothers RC, but that motor continues to live on. So it's been 2 years since we've owned this jet, and it's time to give you an in-depth idea of what our experiences have been since being OG owners of the first batch of Vipers. We know a lot of you guys don't have the luxury of our amazingly perfect runway at the airport we fly from, so smooth and manicured. Surely it's the envy of everyone who watches our channel. Grassops fortunately don't bother this jet at all, and it doesn't matter if your field is bumpy, crappy, or otherwise not pavement. It handles every surface you throw at it within reason. Like, don't try flying it off of bomb craters or something. It's gotta at least be somewhat like a runway for it to fly. It's an airplane, not a monster truck. There's some delicacy involved here. I swear, some of y'all say the gears suck on airplanes when you're out there flying off something that the F-15S MTD was designed for. You gotta fly these things like they're airplanes, they're not monster trucks with wings. That being said, the Viper is about as close to a flying gravedigger as you're going to get in radio control. The suspension is best in class, there's really no better landing gear out there on a jet. In 2 years, we've only managed to bend one strut, and that was because the jet's wing got grabbed by super tall grass on takeoff and it got smashed into the ground. You also want to make sure that you're checking over your E-clips occasionally too, and maybe hit them with a drop of CA glue so they can't go anywhere. Otherwise, this will happen. But this is all basic airworthy maintenance stuff. You should be checking over your aircraft before you fly it, whether or not you're actually in it. Because whether or not you're in it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing occasional maintenance checks across the airframe. Performance-wise, this jet is unparalleled, and it's not a stretch to call it the best jet that Horizon sells. That's basically public opinion by this point. Almost everyone loves it, and for good reason. It flies like a gentle bird, so long as you don't stall it. Generally speaking, it's got a pretty nasty stall. It doesn't nose down, it drops a wing, and it does that fast. Loading up the wings while it's banking in a turn is the #1 reason why this jet crashes. Unlike models with straight wings, the Viper's swept wings do truly stall at the wing tip, meaning that the wing which stalls first stops generating lift and begins to immediately drop as the opposite wing continues providing lift. This roll can be instant, and at low level it's almost impossible to recover from.
A little bit of speed. Oh my gosh.
To get to the point and save you a lot of explanation, the reason why this happens is that the jet requires additional airspeed to finish a banked turn at a constant altitude. You can easily bank the jet down into a turn so long as you're not loading the wings up by pulling the elevator. Otherwise, you gotta keep that airspeed up in your turns or you'll risk a crash. This applies to every aircraft, so it is good practice, in my opinion, to get into the habit of either doing a descending bank or holding roughly half throttle in a banked turn. Back to Acro performance, it has nearly unmatched speed and agility for its class. It performs effortless knife-edge passes and can even do inverted flat spins momentarily. Hell, it even does rolling harriers if you take the time to upgrade the servos to the AGFRC B13 DLM units that we use and cut the aileron hinge slots just a little so that they can rotate fully. The one area it really and truly excels at, what no other sport jet can do that we've seen, is fly in sustained high alpha using the mixing that we've developed for it. On-demand crow, basically. Pull the elevator and the ailerons pop up and the flaps drop. It creates significant washout at the wingtips, lowering the speed at which the jet will hit its critical angle of attack. It's incredible. Now look, we get it. High alpha on a sport jet isn't everyone's cup of tea. The jet obviously wasn't designed to do this, but that's the brilliant part of it. Horizon's work on getting this model designed with massive ailerons and slotted flaps brought us a masterpiece in jet design that can do nearly anything that you want to do, and perhaps even things that you didn't know that you wanted to do. It's truly a jack of all trades. It does everything well and performs high alpha better than most Delta wings that we've flown. If you treat it right and understand what the airframe can tolerate, you can force it to do things it was never designed to do, and make what it was designed to do even better because you've mastered the airframe. Back in August of 2021, we were just figuring out the true potential of the Viper and understanding how the mixing could allow it to fly in high alpha. Now we're pushing ourselves even harder, doing snap rolls into high alpha landings and sustaining high alpha all the way to a late gear deployment. Every time we think we've learned everything that can be done with this airframe, another idea pops into our head and we try a new set of stick commands, and it almost never disappoints. We know you might not care about high alpha on a sport jet, but it does it so damned well that it's hard not to fall in love with it. Being able to force model aircraft to do what they weren't meant to do was always a core principle of our channel's history and reason for being, and the Viper really embodies this, which is why the jet is our channel logo after all. We did upgrade all of the servos over time, except the flaps, to AGF RC B13 DLM units, not because the stock servos aren't good, but because they couldn't push the airframe to its design limitations. The B13s can. They're a $100 total upgrade to replace the ailerons, elevators, and rudder, but the long servo arms can push the control surfaces to extreme throws and hold them there without any blowback. To fit them, you either need to cut the servo wings off or cut a slot into the plastic servo bays to fit them. We went for the easier route and cut the wings off, but that does limit reusability in other models unless they have servo bays that are sized to the FMS spec. The servo upgrade makes a big difference in how the plane flies and is worth considering if you want to get every bit of performance that the airframe is capable of. But don't just take my word on it. Listen to the other half of Two Bros RC discussing his experiences with the Viper.
I want to hear this man's unbiased opinions on why this thing is his choice for flying a jet.
It's the most stable EDF I've ever flown. I can take it up and confidently do anything with it and know that it's going to give me what I want, or it'll stall out, but I know how it stalls because it's so predictable and how it stalls. It definitely is a trainer. It flies a lot better than the 70mm version.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I love this plane.
Tony flies precision aerobatics and is a pilot on the Virtual Blue Angels demo team, so when he says something is stable and lets him do what he wants, I'm inclined to listen and agree. What's the verdict after 2 years of owning it? Very few issues with minimal maintenance, some servo upgrades, and a more efficient FMS 1850 kV metal end-runner. That's about it. For all the reasons you've heard so far, the Viper remains one of our top choices for EDF jet pilots, and we think you can see why. If you'd like to support us by picking up your own Viper for a stress-free flying experience, provided you keep the airspeed up in a turn, check out the link in the description. All the upgraded equipment we've used over the years is there too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time with a new upload.